I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars
Please welcome our host, Simone Sanders Townsend, co-host of MSNBC's The Weekend and long-standing Washington, D.C. resident, Simone Sanders Townsend.
Greetings, everyone. Thank you so much. Can we first start with acknowledging the men and women of DC Fire and EMS? Amazing presentation of the colors. They put their lives on the line for us every single day. I know how hard they work. I used to live around the corner from a fire station. Okay, they are always working. Help me thank them one more time, and the Honor Guard representing them today. That's right. Also, I want to give a warm round of applause to Destiny Rodriguez. She is 14 years old, y'all. Okay, she attends Elliott Hine Middle School. Yes, that was a great Pledge of Allegiance. And let's hear it for our city's newest choral aggregation, the Washington Douglas Chorale. I was like, oh, who is that? Secretary Bassett tells me that they are newly formed and the only one in the city. So another round of applause. They were amazing. Now, I am very pleased to be your MC for this esteemed luncheon. For those of you who do not know, I am not a native Washingtonian. I hail from the city town of North Omaha, Nebraska. Yes, there are black people in Nebraska. But I knew what y'all were thinking, so I just wanted to address the elephant in the room. And it was there where I really drew my inspiration to become civically engaged. It's in North Omaha, Nebraska, where I got bit by the media bug. I participated in my first media literacy program. I learned about the political process. But about 10 years ago, I realized that if I really wanted to make a difference in my local and national community, if I really wanted to get at the heart of and do the real work of democracy, I needed to be in Washington, D.C. And I moved here 10 years ago, and since that time, I've been so blessed to call this place home. My husband and I got married here, so I'm an adopted Washingtonian, folks, okay? Happy to call it. As most of you know, I am blessed to co-host a morning show on MSNBC Saturdays and Sundays, The Weekend, okay, 8 to 10 a.m. Tune in if you missed it. And if you have not tuned in, you should, because we talk a lot about change and democracy, liberty, equity, equality. We are trying to have the conversations that we know many of you are having in your homes, in your community groups, sometimes in the boardrooms. And it is in that spirit, the spirit of the principles of our democracy, the spirit of equality, of equity, of liberty, of justice, that we have gathered here today to recall how the course of history has changed 162 years ago with the passage of the D.C. Compensated Emancipation Act, y'all. Yes, we can clap for that. But we are not just here to celebrate what happened 162 years ago. We are also gathered here to remind our nation, to remind the country, that the work of emancipation is not yet done until the citizens of this great city of Washington, D.C., till these citizens have full liberty, full equity, full equality, full justice. Okay? I see the license plate. No more taxation without representation. So I am now honored to welcome to the podium here today the Secretary of State of the District of Columbia, my good friend, my link sister, Kimberly Bassett.
Hi, everyone. Wasn't that sunshine? We love Simone Sanders. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to welcome you to our 2024 Emancipation Day Full Democracy Champions Luncheon. I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge a few people. First off, Loretta Haynes. If all of you who know Loretta Haynes, she is the founder of Emancipation Day. She is the one who researched and pushed it through, so I would like to acknowledge Loretta. She's no longer with us, but thank you, Loretta Haynes Carter. I'd also like to recognize the DC Emancipation Day Commission. Would you all stand? My commissioners. Yes. Thank you. I'd like to also acknowledge my amazing staff and the advance team from the mayor's office. So today, we are here to celebrate freedom. Freedom is the bedrock of what we call America. And yet, as we celebrate this Emancipation Day, over 700,000 DC residents do not share the same freedoms as others, Americans. I wanted to mark this occasion and share with you a short story. A few months ago, a CNN reporter, Tremaine Lee, came to our DC archives wanting to do research on a Washingtonian named Gabriel Coakley. In the years before the Compensated Emancipation Act, Coakley, a free black entrepreneur, had been able to purchase some of his family members' freedom. But because slavery was still legal, it meant that technically those family members were still slaves, and that Coakley was now their owner. Coakley held slaveholder status. It made him eligible for the compensation under the DC Compensation Act. And Coakley courageously submitted an application, winning $1,489 for his 8 family members. That in today is about $170,000. I was so inspired, and I believe that we can all be inspired by Gabriel Coakley. He found a pathway in the system designed to benefit others. And in the spirit of Gabriel Coakley, let's renew our commitment to be relentless against all odds, to be even more bold, resourceful, and courageous in pursuit of everything we deserve as tax-paying Americans who bear all the responsibilities of citizenship. Full representation, autonomy, and access to fundamental rights that we have all long been denied. So, for our countless ancestors who yearn for freedom but never lived to see emancipation, let us vow to make their freedom our reward. Today, we declare on this Emancipation Day a commitment for freedom for all, a commitment for full representation for DC. Let's all be Gabriel Coakleys. Thank you very much. And thank you. I now like to introduce the chairman of the DC Council, my good friend. I'm going to give you so much flattery. Come on up. Here he comes. Chairman Phil Mendelson. He said it wasn't a lot of flattery. So you're handsome, you're smart, you're amazing.
Stop it. Thank you for that very lengthy introduction. Good afternoon. Happy Tax Day. It is April 15th. According to the most recent data I could find, the District of Columbia surpassed all states in federal taxes paid per capita. We are also known as a donor state. We give more to the federal government than we get back. We rank far behind other states receiving a federal payment. In the 1990s, the District of Columbia received about $660 million a year as a federal payment. It was about 16% of our budget. Last year, we received about $130 million, about 0.6% of our budget. Congress won't even fully reimburse us for the costs of our police providing protection to the federal government. When you see MPD cars as part of the presidential motorcade or additional MPD officers who are helping with protection of the diplomatic corps, the many ways that our Metropolitan Police Department and other agencies provide services to the federal government, and we submit a reimbursement request. This year, Congress is underfunding that reimbursement request by about $20 million. So happy Tax Day. Now, in my view, Emancipation Day, besides reflecting on the history and the unpleasant history of our city and of this country, it is also, in my view, an occasion to think about statehood. Over the past year, the mayor and my office, the council members, we have fought efforts in Congress to eliminate police accountability provisions in our law, fought Congress in its efforts to prohibit us from changing criminal sentences, fought Congress in efforts to repeal, this is kind of amazing, our ability to have automated traffic enforcement like red light cameras, or even to repeal our auto emission requirements, to prohibit us, I think I mentioned this, from changing our criminal sentences, the continuing rider that prohibits us from regulating recreational cannabis. So we have a robust illegal market because we are unable to regulate recreational cannabis, which has been legal for almost a decade. Congress can't even appoint our judges. So if we had statehood, we would be able to much more easily fend off. In fact, we wouldn't even have to worry about a lot of these efforts to intervene with how we govern our city. If we were a state, Congress would not use us as a petri dish for national partisan causes. Like the fight last year over the revised criminal code, which was nothing more than an effort by Republicans to embarrass Democrats. We are larger than the states of Wyoming and Vermont. We're comparable in size to Alaska and North Dakota. When I look at the Federalist Papers, and trust me, I don't read them very often, when I look at the Federalist Papers, the Founding Fathers never discussed as a goal disenfranchising the residents of the District of Columbia. They simply wanted a capital that was independent of the 13 sovereign states. And that's what we have crafted with the Constitutional Convention and our proposal to be the 51st state. A few years ago, I visited Mexico. Why do I mention that? Because Mexico, after its revolution of 1910, established a government that was states that was similar to the United States with a federal district, Mexico City. But they saw that there was an advantage to making Mexico City, the federal district, a state, and it's been a state now for about 6 years. When I visited, they were in the midst of their constitutional convention and establishing the federal district as an independent state. We are now the only country in the free world where the national capital has no representation. All we want is the same rights of citizenship that the citizens of the 50 states have, which is why statehood is so important. So thank you very much, and happy Tax Day, and think about Emancipation Day as a reason to rethink and recommit ourselves to statehood. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Mendelson and Secretary Bassett. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I'm ready to eat. But we cannot eat before we have a community prayer and grace. And here to offer our community prayer and grace is the Reverend Canon Leonard Hamlin Sr. People are laughing because some of y'all ate already, so the Reverend is going to pray for that as well. He's going to do a covering that catches it all. He is the Canon Missioner and Minister of Equity and Inclusion at the Washington National Cathedral. Immediately following his prayer, lunch will be served. Please give a warm welcome to Reverend Canon Leonard Hamlin Sr.
Good afternoon. Certainly I invite those whose practice is to include prayer, that all of us might come together, as well as invite all of you to join me in this moment that has been set aside for our gratefulness of the time that we're in, the food that we have received, and the food that, of course, we have already eaten. So won't you join me in a word of prayer? Gracious and loving Creator, we have gathered on this day thankful, yet thoughtful, humbled, yet hopeful. On this day, and in this Champions Luncheon, we are reminded of the power that is within us, the service that is able to come from us, the victories that can be achieved through us, and the community connections that are shared between us. Bless this gathering in order that we might forever remember and tell the fullness of our history, the struggle for freedom and the striving for justice. May we strengthen our resolve for full democracy, a democracy that truly provides an environment that respects human rights and fundamental freedoms, and in which the freely expressed will of the people can be exercised. Thank you for the servants that continue to challenge any social, economic, political, spiritual, or intellectual domination of any individual group, race, religion, or political party. that seeks to use power to subjugate rather than elevate, to hurt rather than heal, or divide rather than unite. Help us to serve one another, to lift one another, and most of all, love one another. May we be so transformed in this generation that we may see more than what we have seen, hear more than what we've heard, so that we will forever do more than what we have done. So that for this present and even the next generation, their lives will be made whole. Fill this day and our lives, our leadership, and all of our relationships with a vision that will inspire us in our aspirations to hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men, and God, we know all women, boys, and girls are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. May we never forget the disinherited, the disallowed, and the disengaged. Let this gathering be a true celebration today of what has been done, what is being done, and fill our spirits with a conviction for right now for what will be done. Bless the mayor, her cabinet, all who govern and hold authority in the District of Columbia, this capital city, this model city, and all leaders in this nation and beyond, that they may be led to govern with compassion and justice to benefit the entire human family. So grant us courage, grant us strength, grant us faith, grant us humility as we sit and join in this meal. Bless all that has been prepared, the hands that have prepared it, those that will serve it, those that will eat it, that we might be strengthened in mind, body, and in spirit. And when we leave this place, we will know that we have been together, but working towards a brighter day. This we ask as we say thank you. In your wonderful name we pray. Amen.
Well, everyone, in the interest of time, we are going to keep our program moving. I ask that you take your seats. Now, I also had the salad. It was delicious. And my chicken is just sitting on the side of the stage, so. So, as we take our seats and begin and continue on with the program, we want to acknowledge a number of the notable leaders in the room. And I ask that when your name is called, you stand and give a wave so the people can see you. And feel free to clap, folks. You already heard from Chairman of the City Councilman, Phil Mendelson. I know that former Mayor Sharon Pratt Kelly is also in the room. Council members Anita Bonds, Matt Fruman, and Brooke Pinto. Where are you? I see you, council members. Our Chief of Police, Pamela Smith. Deputy Mayor Lindsay Apaya is here with us today. Deputy Mayor Nina Albert is in the room. Senior Advisor, and I like to say my play auntie, Beverly Perry. The Mayor's General Counsel, Betsy Cavendish. Chief of Staff, Lindsay Parker. The UDC President is with us today, Dr. Maurice Eddington. Members of the Mayor's Cabinet, please stand if you are with us, members of the Mayor's Cabinet. And any members of the Office of the Secretary and Office of the Senior Advisor. Thank you so much. Give our public servants a round of applause, folks. Well, I hope you all are enjoying your meal and whatnot. So we are going to go straight to the presentation here. And before we do that, I have to introduce our illustrious mayor. You know, I do take great pride in making this introduction. Mayor Bowser is a standout political leader. She is now serving a historic third term as mayor of this great city. I appreciate her because she's always willing to come on the televisions and answer the tough questions. She leads with competency, grit, and grace. None other than our mayor, the Honorable Muriel Bowser. Please join me in welcoming her to the stage.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Hey, well, that's nice. Good afternoon. It is so great to see all of your beautiful spaces. So wonderful to be joined by my colleagues in leadership. And I want to thank all the council members for being here. I want to especially acknowledge Chairman Phil Mendelson, who has had a distinguished career in service to DC residents, beginning as an ANC commissioner, council staffer, and now chairman of the council. And Phil's remarks were very needed and necessary. And I was sad when I think about us paying all of our taxes, more than most, and still not being represented in the Congress. But I also felt a charge to continue working on how we get there. And we know in this town that we knock down barriers and we win by continuing to fight. So give Phil another round of applause. I want to recognize at-large council member Anita Bonds, a fighter for democracy for a lot of years. I don't know if Anita knows this, but we have a special thing that we call her in my cabinet. We call her the little engine. You know the story, the little engine that could. That's Anita Bonds. I want to recognize our Ward 2 council member and the council member for the downtown, Council Member Brooke Pinto. She's a bright light on the council, and we appreciate her leadership. And Council Member Matt Frillman, for Ward 3. The council member for UDC in the neighborhoods of Ward 3. So I'm just really honored to be here, and we are all honored to be in service to you. I'm here for a brief introduction of a couple of very special people, but before I do that, I want to thank our Secretary of State for the District of Columbia, Secretary Kimberly Bassett and her team. Thank you, Madam Secretary, who has just been instrumental in making sure that we have our rightful place among the secretaries of state in our nation. She's also spearheading our efforts to build our new archives at the University of the District of Columbia. So we the Secretary has established a pair of awards. The first one is named for a freedom icon and a great friend to the civil rights movement, the late, great John Lewis. Many of you will recall his support of our city has been unwavering. I was privileged to have a conversation with him when he knew that his days with us were limited. He got out of his sick bed to meet me at Black Lives Matter Plaza. And he did that I'm sure, to share a story with me about how he stayed at the Hilton before going over to the Lincoln Memorial, where he was the youngest speaker at the March on Washington. But the reason I know that he did that, because he loved young people, and I'm going to put myself in the young person bucket for a second. And it was so important to him that as a person who was in the sunset of his life, to pass on the spirit of the fight to those of us who are here to fight on. So I just love him for that. I love that so many people around the world saw us pictured together in our town on Black Lives Matter Plaza, and we're joined today by his Chief of Staff, Michael Collins. Give Michael a big round of applause. And we are our first honoree who will be recognized in Mr. Lewis's name. Is it time for me to go up and start these introductions? Okay. And she is a two-time youth mayor. And she has spent her time in service highlighting the importance of mental health. And in fact, she traveled all 8 wards of our city, speaking to countless young people in schools about self-care and wellness. She's only 19, and in those 19 years, she has packed in a record of exemplary service to the district. And we are so honored today to present her with the John Lewis Youth Leadership Award. Please join me in congratulating Addison Rose. And our second award is the highest award bestowed by the Association of Secretaries of State, the Medallion Award. And there are so many things I can say about our awardee. I could highlight her 14-plus years of service to the Office of the D.C. Secretary. I could highlight her 20 years of service to the National Capital Planning Commission, and also a stellar commitment to the D.C. Democratic Party. But I think that the things that make her so special is one that we can all learn from, and that is that she shows up. She's there, she's present, she's positive, and she's committed to our city. She's there at every event to support our city's leaders, to advocate for our rights. And let me just say, as somebody who has the privilege of being here for 3 terms, I've learned the difference between those people you can count on and the people who say you can count on them. And Pat Elwood is someone you can count on. It brings me great honor to highlight the service of Dr. Patricia Elwood to the people of the District of Columbia. So let me just acknowledge the families of our awardees. Pat wanted us to know that when she moved to Washington, she was pregnant with her son, who is here at table 4. And I also want to acknowledge the wonderful family of Addison Rose. Please give them a big round of applause.
Awesome, awesome. Proceed.
Okay, and so now I just want to say a couple of more words. First, we want to thank our adopted daughter from Nebraska, Simone Sanders Townsend. Give Simone another big round of applause. And we just want to appreciate her for her analysis and for being in a lot of places, in rooms, around tables, for discussions that we're not there for. But we know that she brings a sensibility and a wit that cuts through the you-know-what to talk about the issues of importance to us. I want to thank the League of Women Voters CEO, Kelly McFarland Stratman. We thank you and your team as a recipient as a democracy grant for the District on Voting Rights and Statehood. Let's give them a big round of applause. We also like to acknowledge our Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton, who couldn't be here today, but she, of course, is a steadfast supporter of our democracy organizations and has been able to deliver for the people of the District of Columbia in so many ways. Phil has mentioned a number of times that we were up on at the Congress in the past year, focused on our issues, but especially focused on beating back interference from the Congress. We wish we could say that it was over, but we know that we always have to stand ready to fight against any interference in how we do our business. I want to acknowledge our statehood Senator Paul Strauss. Please give Senator Strauss a big round of applause as well, who is always on the Hill representing our interest. Phil gave us a somber message, and mine is equally somber because people ask me every single day, especially lately, are we ready? Are we ready for a massive assault on our democracy, and what will we do? And I will just say this to all of you. It is not an academic discussion, unfortunately. We have seen a leader try to really assault our home rule in ways that I don't think many of us thought would ever happen. And we have to be strategic, not just in evaluating all of our legal issues and legal ways to fight. We have to be looking at making sure that we are fighting to protect our finances from intrusion. We have to look at ways that we are fighting to protect our law enforcement capabilities, both locally and with the federal government. We have to always be looking to make sure we have a legislative agenda that strengthens our autonomy in every way possible. But what I assure you of is that we have the right people on the job. And we're going to continue to fight in that way. I have to also tell you that among the leaders that I have mentioned, we've worked with many presidents, me, 3, including, the one that people are worried about. We've worked with every iteration of the Congress, Democrats in control, Republicans in control, one-party rule, divided government. We've worked with every iteration that you can imagine. And our approach has always been the same. We go to them, directly to them, and we tell them who we are. We tell them that we take care of ourselves, and we tell them to stay out of our business. I will confess that there's a wrinkle this time. and that's that Supreme Court. So that's why we're always watching and working to protect the people of the District of Columbia. And one of our greatest defenses is that we are an outstanding jurisdiction. We are a well-run government. We are a bunch of very smart people. Our finances are strong. And so when we go to defend ourselves at the Capitol or the White House, we have in line the things that we need to have in line. And then we're also right. We're legally right and we're morally right. And so that's why we can go and we can take the arguments to them. We have now been approved by the House of Representatives for D.C. statehood 2 times, right? Am I right? Twice? Is that right? It came out of the House 2 times. And in the Senate, they no longer talk about us not being able to take care of ourselves. They had to admit that it's just because they don't want 2 Democratic senators. Now that's up to us, isn't it? So just know this, that no matter who's in control of the Congress or lives in the White House, the District of Columbia is strong, and we are going to fight for our budget, legislative autonomy, and for statehood for the District of Columbia. Because let us also be clear about this, that is the only way, statehood, that we're fully autonomous and fully represented. So when I look around this room, I know that not only when we go up for that fight, is it going to be me and Phil and members of the council, but it's going to be all of us together. So thank you and congratulations to our recipients.
Please welcome back to the stage the Washington Douglas Chorale, singing a special rendition of the Negro National Anthem. Lift every voice and sing. Please welcome our keynote speaker, the Honorable Maxwell Frost.
Good afternoon. Let's give them another round of applause for that amazing performance. And if you noticed, on the screen were the names of the 3,000 emancipated slaves. I'm Congressman Maxwell Alejandro Frost. I proudly represent Florida's 10th Congressional District here in the United States Congress. I am also proud to be the first black Afro-Cuban member of Congress and the first member of my generation, Gen Z, to be in Congress. And first off, I want to thank Mayor Bowser for inviting me to be here today. I've gotten to know Mayor Bowser because I sit on the House Oversight Committee, aka the Crazy Committee. I'm on there with your favorite people, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren, oh, wrong room. But I'll tell you, I know what we're voting on when I walk in because I'll look in the front row and I see your mayor there with some of her staff. And she'll speak with us, and everyone here knows this, but you should know you have a dedicated mayor who, when DC's interests, or a lot of times non-interests, are on the committee's schedule, she's there, making sure she's speaking with members of Congress. So, Madam Mayor, thank you so much for having me here this morning. I also want to thank any of our organizers, volunteers, any union members in the room. Thank you so much for being here. Thanking, yes, all of our public servants, elected officials. And last but certainly not least, thank you so much to all of the workers here today that are serving the food and making sure that this can be possible. Thank you so much for being here. Brothers, sisters, and siblings, I bring you greetings from the beautiful state of Florida. I used to say the great state of Florida. Sometimes we do some not so great things. So now I say the beautiful state of Florida because we're a beautiful state with beautiful people. But I come from a state where we're seeing firsthand why democracy and voting matters so much. This is not hyperbole. Our democracy is on the line in this country. Again, I come from a state where we have a governor and a state legislature that is utilizing the borrowed power of the people to oppress people who disagree with them, working to subvert democracy in order to push the agenda of a minority through. It is the organizer in all of us that are going to save our democracy. And if you study movement history, you understand how black folks have always organized to see the world through the eyes of the most vulnerable. See, we come from a people who have been hated for over 400 years, yet have taught the world so much about what love means. That's the motto of my office, is lead with love. And I got involved in advocacy when I was 15 years old for one simple reason. I didn't want to get shot in school. For those of you who don't know, I'm a musician. I went to an arts middle school and high school where I studied jazz drums for about 7 years. Before every jazz band concert, my best friends and I would go to this Chili's across the street. We'd load up on a ton of junk food. I remember we were there eating one night, and this silence falls across the restaurant. We look at each other, we look at the television screens, and we see, somebody walked into an elementary school in Newtown, Connecticut, and murdered 20 children and 6 teachers. Now, for those of you who don't know my story, I was adopted at birth out of a bad situation, and so I was raised in the white suburbia of Orlando. Gun violence was not a normal part of my life. And seeing those images on the screen made me very uncomfortable. But as we all know, a lot of times when you're the most uncomfortable is when your heart is the most open to being changed. I remember I went to the show that night. I played one of the worst gigs of my life. I was rushing, I was dragging, I was missing the hits because I kept looking behind me at the exit signs because I was scared somebody would walk into that theater and kill my friends, my family, and myself. And I remember chatting with my friends after the show that night and saying, did y'all feel that way? And I felt like that feeling I had was pretty unique. But nowadays, especially for members of my generation, we know that feeling and that fear is anything but unique. We're a generation that has coined the mass shooting generation. I remember my first time, we have our schools come to D.C., and the first elementary school that came in last year after I was elected, I was so excited. I stayed up late the night before practicing what questions I would ask them to get them inspired about politics and civic engagement. And I came up with this question. I was like, I'm going to ask them what bill they would pass. And they come up, and I ask a 9-year-old girl, I say, what bill would you pass? What bill would you propose? And I'm ready. I'm like thinking, ice cream for dinner, no homework, parents go away for a week. And she looks at me and she says, I would ban assault weapons so I don't get shot in school. I asked another kid, I would pass a law so that way we can fight the climate crisis because I want to grow up. These are the things on the minds of young people right now. And so when I got home from coming to Washington, D.C. for the first time at the age of 15, I came up for the vigil that was being hosted for the kids who were killed during the Sandy Hook shooting. And for me, what was my call to action and the moment that changed my life forever was meeting people my age who lost their family members due to the gun violence. And seeing 16-year-olds with the demeanor of 60-year-olds crying over their family members who were shot and killed for no reason completely changed my life. I remember I ran back to the hotel room that night and I was crying. I called my mother. She was a public school educator for 37 years, and I said, Mom, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to fight for a world where people don't have to feel that pain I saw in the eyes of many people my age tonight. And so I got back home and I started organizing. I started working on campaigns at the age of 15. When I graduated high school, I got a call. They said, hey, we need you to be a field organizer for a campaign for Hillary Clinton. I said, oh my God, amazing. They were like, we're going to pay you $1,000 a month. I said, $1,000? I'm going to be rich. And so I packed my bags and I went to Fort Myers, Florida, and that began my career as an organizer and my work as an organizer, working on different campaigns. The campaign that changed my life was Amendment 4 in the state of Florida, which was the ballot referendum to give people with previous felonies the right to vote. Yes, and we passed that. I got hired to be the field director for the ACLU of Florida for that campaign, and that year would change my life because I took something for granted that I shouldn't have taken for granted, and that was democracy. Spending time with formerly incarcerated people who, when I'd meet with them and learn about their lives, you judge books by their cover, and I would meet them and not assume what they've been through, or I'd assume what they've been through. And I saw the highest of our society in those individuals. And I even told myself, man, you should be able to vote. You care about this. I remember my barber of 15 years, he made a mistake when he was 17 years old, and he had never been able to vote in his entire life. He's about 47 now. The first time he ever voted was in 2020 because Amendment 4 passed. And I remember when I was thinking about running for office, I was at a crossroads in my life. I had some friends from the Black Lives Matter protests who came up to me and said, Maxwell, these are actually people I had been arrested with. I was jailed in the jail that's in the district I now represent here in Congress for nonviolent protests. And they came up to me, they were like, Maxwell, you should run for Congress. I said, hell no. I'm not running for Congress. I'm too young. I'm not experienced enough. All the things my opponents would say about me. But there was a conversation I had with my biological mother that changed my life. And I never knew anything about her, not because my parents didn't want to tell me, but because, honestly, I didn't care. I was adopted at birth. I loved my childhood. I mean, I had squabbles with my parents sometimes, but I didn't really care to know who my biological mother was. And so I asked my parents for her story. And I'm going to be honest with you all this morning in full transparency. Up until a few months ago, I would say I wanted to reconnect with my past, and so I connected with my biological mother. But I was given my stump speech in front of some people a few months ago, and my mentor came up to me after and said, Maxwell, you're a damn liar. I said, what do you mean? He said, you didn't feel inspired. I told you you're thinking about running for office, and you should look into your past in case there's anything sketchy. But that's not good for a speech, so I wanted to be inspired. And my parents gave me the Facebook page of my biological mother. I go through, I'm looking at photos of my siblings, and I see we have a mutual friend. And it's my barber of almost 15 years. I text him, I'm like, do you know who this person is? He calls me right away. He goes, Maxwell, how do you know this person? I say, I just found out that's my biological mother. He goes, man, I know your mom. I said, how do you know her? We were best friends in high school. When we graduated, we moved in together with another friend. For many months, she couldn't afford her rent. And so I went and I held up a store to pay for your mother's rent. I was arrested, and I lost my right to vote for the rest of my life. He gives me her number, I call her, we speak for hours. And, you know, as an organizer, I'd always tell my organizers and my volunteers, this is about seeing the world through the eyes of the most vulnerable. And little did I know, after I heard my own biological mother's story and why she put me up for adoption at birth, that she was exactly the person I had been fighting for my whole life. And I realized then and there that I had to run for Congress to protect the right to vote for people like Chris, to ensure that we have democracy for all people. And it is at risk. Our democracy is at risk for all of us. I mean, we have a party, and not to get too partisan here, but I gotta say, we have people in a party that claims to be about liberty and freedom. But my question is, how is getting shot in your school freedom? How is banning books freedom? How is restricting the right to vote for people who look like us and me freedom? How is not allowing DC the autonomy and governance they deserve freedom? It's not. They'll vote to take away your voting rights on Friday and then go to church on Sunday. But I grew up a Southern Baptist. I played drums in the church for over a decade. And I read somewhere about a Jesus who said to lead with love. And that's what this morning is about. Because if you love somebody, you want them to have the opportunity, the affordable housing, no violence that they deserve. And to get that, we utilize and organize within our democracy to fight for the world that we all deserve. That's been the fight for generations. And that's why I'm so honored to be here with you this morning. You know, I think a lot about the protests that happened in 2020. I think a lot about what happened after that shooting at Marjory Stoneman Douglas, where those young people got up and said, we call BS, because we deserve to be safe. We see that in 2018 and in 2020, and in 2022, we had the 3 years of the highest youth voter turnout in the history of our country. And it gives me the resolve to keep fighting for the future that we deserve. And that call is on every single one of us. I feel super honored to have organized in many different ways, registering people to vote, planning concerts and cultural events, because bridging the gap between cool and consciousness is important in this fight. Fighting to ensure we have good mutual aid systems to take care of our people as we fight within the system too. And direct action and protest. And I'll tell you, as I've been in all these different elements of organizing, you always hear people talking smack about the other. Voting doesn't matter. Or protesting doesn't matter. It doesn't do anything. But the call to action this morning is, however you organize, whatever you do, have respect for other people in our movement too. Because that is how we're going to win. Because I'll tell you, our opposition will use every tool in their toolbox, and we have to use every tool in ours. And that is how we'll fight for our democracy, both inside the halls of Congress and out. It's how we'll fight for our democracy in our municipalities, school board, city council across the entire country. And it's how we'll fight for the world that we deserve. And in the words of Angela Davis, I am no longer accepting the things I cannot change, but I'm going to change the things I cannot accept. That is what this morning is about. That is what democracy gives us. And so, again, I just want to thank you all for letting me be here this morning. This morning is what we call a fly-in day in Congress. This is where we fly in and we vote later this evening. This is the most unproductive Congress since the Great Depression, at a time where we need productivity from our leaders. But the good thing that Washington, D.C. can keep in mind is your leaders are doing the work. So thank you to everybody in this room. Thank you to our organizers, our unions, and our leaders. It's a blessing to be here. God bless you all. Have a great morning. Thank you.
Let's keep that applause going for Congressman Maxwell Frost. Oh my goodness. Was he not excellent? Excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay, next time the people want to rag on the millennials, I'm like, y'all don't understand. We got Maxwell Frost. Congressman, thank you so much for your poignant remarks. He was so clear, issued a charge to all of us. I think I can speak for everyone in this room when I say how grateful we are to have Congressman Maxwell Frost on Capitol Hill. As a very, very, very clear voice. And folks, as we prepare to leave this gathering, I think it's vital that we all recommit ourselves to the work of securing full democratic rights for the citizens of Washington, D.C. Democracy work is 365, as I like to say. And I can't think of a better person to issue our final call to action than Kelly McFarland Stratman, who is the interim CEO of the League of Women Voters. Kelly has something to say. Give her a warm round of applause.
Good afternoon. So I am Kelly McFarland Stratman, and I am the interim co-CEO of the League of Women Voters. And I want to issue a special thank you to the mayor for asking me here today and for bringing all of us together. And especially, I want to thank you for your unwavering commitment to statehood for the people of the District of Columbia. So I am deeply honored to be with you today as we unite in solidarity to commemorate Emancipation Day. I'm in awe of the advocates and activists in this room. It is truly incredible. At the same time, though, just as we've heard from Congressman Frost, I am angry and I am frustrated that we have to keep having this fight, that fundamental rights remain out of reach for DC residents. I want to acknowledge the work of those we have seen and heard from today, as well as so many others who are tirelessly taking up this fight day in and day out. I think of Ann Anderson, who I know is in the House. She is a leader in the League of Women Voters of the District of Columbia, and she has been on this fight for 50 years. I think of my own mother-in-law, who shares a story of her early activism, of marching in support of statehood with my sister-in-law in a baby stroller some 55 years ago when they lived in Woodley Park. We must continue to build on that passion and commitment because we know that DC statehood is critical. It's critical for our nation's democracy. It's critical for our community, and it's critical for every individual who calls the district their home today, and for the generations that will call the Washington-Douglas Commonwealth their home in the future. Yes. So the League of Women Voters has supported DC statehood and autonomy for 80 years. 80 years. That's a lifetime. That's multiple generations. And that's just the tip of this injustice. Our league, our local league, the LWV of DC, has been on the front lines of the fight, spearheading and mobilizing our 500,000 members and supporters across the country. We are actively working to make statehood a reality by engaging throughout the district, from Anacostia to Brooklyn, by working with the mayor and working with so many of you in this room today. And this year, with the generous support of the mayor's office, we are excited that the League of DC will be leading the Youth Voices for DC Statehood initiative that will provide DC youth with an opportunity to share their powerful stories in their own voices. We also are in communities in every state working with local and state governments to elevate this fight. As we know, and has been stated here today, for far too long, DC residents have had Congress meddle in their affairs. This lack of autonomy undermines the principles of our democracy and equal citizenship. So in our office, we sometimes use this expression. We sometimes say, you need to call a thing a thing. So I'm going to do that now. With a population that is mostly people of color, the denial of this full autonomy is a racial justice issue. It parallels the scourge of racial inequities throughout our democracy, from voter suppression and gerrymandered districts to the most deeply rooted and the one that's baked into our Constitution, the Electoral College. Now, I know that's not the centerpiece of today's gathering, but given that it is a gathering on Emancipation Day, I feel compelled to mention the Electoral College, which was adopted as a, quote, consensus second choice and as a compromise for Southern enslavers who wanted to take advantage of the Black population's ineligibility to vote and to increase their own power. In short, it was a compromise to appease slave owners, and it has got to go. The democracy that we aspire to is a democracy where each and every person votes directly for the president, where each and every person has a voting representation in Congress, where each and every voter can cast a ballot and know that that ballot counts. That is what a true democracy looks like, a democracy that is powered by the people, for the people, all the people. The people of DC deserve the same rights of self-government and full voting representation in Congress as all other citizens in this country. And we must call on our elected officials to prioritize and center DC statehood as a critical issue for our nation. Very simply, Congress must pass H.R. 51, the DC Admissions Act. So the mayor asked me to give you a call to action, and that's what I'm going to do. As we leave here today, I urge each of you to activate your networks. First, we need to thank Representative Eleanor Holmes Norton for her leadership. She is an inspiration. Then, we each need to tell our family and friends in other states why DC statehood is a requirement. I'm going to underscore that word. It is a requirement for our nation's democracy. And then we need to tell them what to do. They can contact their members of Congress to support H.R. 51. And then they can urge their networks. They can talk to their family, their friends, their coworkers, and ask them to do the same. And then they can connect with their local League of Women Voters to join in the chorus of activists standing in solidarity with the people of DC. It is time for us to make a bold stand for democracy by supporting DC statehood. It's time to eradicate this injustice. There cannot be another generation without full rights. We must admit the Washington Douglas Commonwealth into the Union. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kelly, for that call to action. Oh, before we go any further, I'd like to note if you lost your phone and are searching for your phone, perhaps it has a sparkly background case, see me to the right of the stage. I have the phone. Well, folks, if you noticed during that amazing rendition of the National Negro Anthem, there were names. We can clap for that rendition. The choral is amazing. And I didn't know Nolan conducted and ran events. Does it all. If you saw on the screens, there were names on the screens. The names on the screens were the 3,185 men and women who were emancipated by Abraham Lincoln months before the Emancipation Proclamation was written right here in the District of Columbia. That happened 162 years ago tomorrow. It is in the spirit of these men and women who were not only emancipated, they were compensated. Men and women who were compensated that we gather here today to push forward in our fight towards democracy. So on behalf of the mayor, the city's leadership, thank you for your attendance here today. We thank the folks who are also watching virtually. Give a round of applause for our virtual attendees. We thank Congressman Frost for his rousing remarks and keynote. And we thank Kelly for that charge and mobilization. We're going to end this program on a high note, and I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about a legendary artist who was a pioneer of rap artistry in this city. For this occasion, he is premiering this brand new song, appropriately titled Defend the Vote. Folks, stand to your feet and give a warm round of applause to the stage, Priest the Nomad. Oh, y'all can do better than that.
1 1 2 1 2. Yeah. It was DC. What's up? This is the vibe out portion of the joint. You know what I'm saying? Northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest. Where you at? Listen. Look. Let's talk about it. DC statehood, total control over our streets and neighborhoods. Ancestors built the city up with built in stone. Can't legislate the laws to protect our homes without federal approval. Goes against scruples about democracy. Man, we want our own autonomy and bigger budgets for affordable housing and health care. People's well-being, that's the real welfare. We over 700,000, it's wrong to keep asking for the right to vote, and we still gotta pay taxes. God forbid we miss a payment. We got no choice, so no love for anybody trying to take our voice. That's a no-no. Yes, I'm here for more than a promo. We got a snail's pace, progress moving in slow-mo. History we proud of. Muriel and Bowser, DC we never quit. Let's say it a little louder. We all need a voice to defend the vote. Throw your hands up for this. Defend the vote. Hey, we all need a voice to defend the vote. Let's fight for change, never give up hope. Hey, we all need a voice to defend the vote. Defend the vote. Defend the vote. Yeah, it sound good. It sound good. Now listen. Let's fight for change, never give up hope. Name Priest the Nomad, U Street art scene. Bipartisan flow, we can all move our feet. We the first to emancipate. Now we fight for HR 51. Make Douglas Commonwealth for state. Eleanor Holmes Norton, fighting year after year. We right by our side and we show no fear. Uptown to Congress Heights, DC, it's no equal. A government by the people, it's best for the people. Throw your hands, defend the vote. Defend the vote. Defend the vote. We all need a voice to defend the vote. Let's fight for change, never give up hope. Hey, we all need a voice to defend the vote. Come on. I got a special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, DC Zone, Cartier Williams. I'ma get busy. Put it in the pocket, put it in the pocket. I told you we vibing. DC, where you at? We all need a voice to defend the vote. Defend the vote. Defend the vote. Hey, we all need a voice to defend the vote. Let's fight for change. Front row, hey, we all need a voice to defend the vote. Defend the vote. Back row, we all need a voice to defend the vote. Let's fight for change. Never give up. Yeah, where y'all from? I said, where y'all from? Where y'all from? Yeah, Brentwood, Northeast for me. Where y'all? Thank y'all so much. HR 51, make Douglas Commonwealth for state. Priest the Nomad. Peace. Cartier Williams, DC Zone.